We are lucky that we have a constitution in this country. Otherwise, we'd be dealing with the same fate as Canada, which is just like a randomly arresting people, or the UK.
It's a mess.
What is the UK doing? More lockdowns?
They announced more lockdowns when their deaths have been going down, and they're extending it.
Was it
which
like
is absolutely
4 weeks
absurd.
or something?
Yeah, they're at a 4-week low. It continues to go down, but the UK government still is like, well, we need to lock down more because of this Indian variant, which again doesn't correlate with the hospitalizations, the cases, and the numbers. A lot of this is, in my opinion, more about control. And when we look at the lockdowns, when we see the larger effects of them, we don't see any efficacy. We don't see any scientific data showing that they actually helped, especially with states like Florida and Texas disproving a lot of the big data surrounding this particular case. But what did the lockdowns do? They helped out the billionaire class because the billionaire class was allowed to be open. Amazon, Walmart, Costco, whatever other special interest, business as usual. You run a church, you run a business,
horrifying.
You're screwed. And then another thing that happened, there's this horrible video, I tweeted it out today, and it's heartbreaking, of a father being arrested in front of his children because he practiced his religion in Canada and held religious services. And seeing videos like that infuriate me because it also plays into what we were talking about in the beginning of this broadcast, these huge waves of violence that are taking over major cities, not just in San Francisco, Atlanta, New York.
But hold on, that point you made about the guy getting arrested. Remember when the pandemic first started and we saw those videos out of Wuhan where the Chinese authorities were dragging people out of their homes, and we were like, wow, China's crazy. And then it happened in Canada hundreds of times.
Australia,
sure did. In
New
Quebec
Zealand.
it happened.
It even happened here in the U.S.
And it's happening right now as we're speaking. As
it happened
Florida,
in the Jewish community in New York City.
As Florida's doing huge open concerts, 12,000 people at the Bitcoin conference. Canada, you can't even have a religious service, which is absolutely infuriating. And when police officers, a lot of their time, a lot of their resources were spent directly at shutting down businesses, at shutting down church services, and they did it happily. And at the same time, what did cities like New York City do? They released violent criminals onto the street. The resources for the policing went towards innocent people. Innocent people were sent to jail, were prosecuted, were punished for doing everyday average things. And now the United Kingdom's saying we need more lockdowns.
So what you're saying
ridiculous.
is abolish the police?
I think there's a discussion to be had, especially when it comes to policing, and I'm not afraid to say that. I think that, we definitely need to have that conversation, especially what's happening in Atlanta. There was a drive-by shooting. There's videos of police officers standing by and deciding not to intervene or do anything because the mayor banned them from even doing pursuits in the city of Atlanta.
So there's a report from Michael Tracy about all of the ridiculous COVID fines that police were writing for regular people for nonsense. There was one story, I think it was out of New York, a Jewish guy. His store was closed, but he opened the door for fresh air.
Restaurant.
Yeah.
And then the cop the health official
health
is like,
inspector
we're going to
came.
write you a fine. And he's like, why? I'm closed. I'm like, door's open. Sorry.
Doors open. It was interesting. A year ago, because the churches were all closed, I think it was in Pittsburgh, a church group decided to hold their service in Walmart.
Yeah.
And there
Oh,
was,
that's right.
And
I remember
hearing about
that was amazing. It was so infuriating to watch as all of the corporate, like we were talking about, Luke, all of the corporate interests got to keep their businesses open and the little shops closed down. In my neighborhood, like a ton of little shops are gone.
Yep.
And it's sad to see. The Rite Aid is still there with the gum in cages. But
They got people to worship the Lord in Walmart.
they sure did.
That is... Okay, I'm sorry, man. You could not have written a future nightmare dystopia that bad.
What do you think?
Because when they were writing 1984, they were like, well, people were still practicing their religious ceremonies, in private. Well, not really. 1984 was like worship Big Brother, but at the very least, man, we could go for a nightmare dystopia where we go to the corporation for our religious ceremonies because it's the only place the government allows.
It's like WALL-E.
Yeah,
that movie was so prescient.
Yeah, man. I think honestly, it's Mike Judge is a prophet.
Yeah,
Idiocracy.
Amazing. That was amazing too.
Idiocracy.
Did you ever see E.M. Forrester? I mean, it's not a film, but he wrote a book called The Machine Stops, and it takes place in the future. He wrote it in I think 1911, 1918, somewhere around there, and everybody lives in their own little box. Everyone lives in their own little cube. They interact with each other through what's called the machine. They deliver speeches to the machine. They react to each other's lectures through the machine. They ask the machine to bring them things. The machine brings them, someone to sleep with. and then takes their children away and puts them in a different little box. The Earth is uninhabitable, and they don't know how to interact with one another.
It's like being in a chicken coop.
It kind of is, except it's also kind of like COVID lockdowns.
Yeah, man. Idiocracy. So what? We have Donald Trump as president. He's literally in the WWE Hall of Fame. He is.
He actually is?
Yeah, he actually
Yep,
is.
he is.
The actual individual of Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame. He was the president of the United States. And like Camacho in Idiocracy is like this wrestler. So not one for one, but so much of that seems to be coming true, and it's rather nightmarish. But, you know, it's not completely, obviously the movie is very different. But there's funny things to point out about it. I'll tell you what's really disconcerting is when you look at the policies coming from Democrats, the ideology coming from the left, the things they believe. Which one? Who? I think Libby, you were mentioning this. It was a shifting sand, or was that you, Emma? Like shifting sand beneath them. Yeah, you were saying this. They have no real moral framework or foundation. It's just whatever is convenient for them to own the cons, to gain some kind of victory. There's no morality. There's no framework. It is just literally, in my opinion, is fire. Our country, our culture is a house made of brick and stone. We built it over a long period of time. We got some weird rooms in this place, that's for sure. And then along comes new ideology that just starts burning and destroying these things. There's no real rhyme or reason to their ideologies other than we're right and we want power.
But it's just like one thing that's, I mean, there's so much of this that you could have never predicted. I mean, I remember talking about some weird virus that's going on in China in January and seeing some weird videos and, but that, won't actually come. They've had SARS before and it hasn't come. But yeah, so, there's been so much that you really couldn't predict standing here now a year ago. But the thing that I find really striking is people's willingness to go along with whatever.
Yeah. I remember just having my jaw drop, hearing the stories and understanding that Wuhan was allowing international flights, but not domestic flights in China. Hearing that, I was like, wait, what's going on here? I remember hearing about the Wuhan laboratory. You talked about it, automatically cut on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, just utterly deleted. And the control of social media, I think, you kind of talked about it a little bit, talking about how unethical they are and how, they're just doing things for profit. And I think that this deserves a larger conversation because they essentially are the ones that are controlling communications, controlling so many important aspects of our life that if it was free, if information was free flowing, we could have dealt with this in such a way better fashion.
But we judged our information, right? We judged it through the lens of ideology. So instead of saying like, here's some information, let's look at it objectively, let's measure it against reality, let's have an open discourse, we measured it against our concerns that saying the virus was from China was racist. We measured it.
Not Trump. He called it the Kung flu.
Well, that was.
And they told you to go to the Chinese Day Parade in New York City.
Yeah, I mean, you had Bill de Blasio and Nancy Pelosi both saying, come out to Chinatown, stop being racist. You had them saying that Trump was overblowing the virus and then so quickly thereafter saying that he wasn't taking it seriously enough. And it turns out that I think HHS under his leadership was dealing with it in January, but we don't look at reality. We don't look at information objectively. We look at it through the lens of, our political priorities. And that's a real problem. And that is a problem of leadership specifically, but it's also a problem for us who keep voting for these people who don't have any concern other than maintaining their own power base.
But I even think that's like too meta. Human functioning and human cognition has existed longer than the internet controlled our communication. And people you would think that there would be some level of functioning and thinking that goes outside of the prism that big tech and the media present information to. We were talking about how draconian it got. And, for instance, I got a trespassing ticket during COVID. I will admit.
Trespassing?
Trespassing for playing squash in a park.
Wow.
Because, in New York, they closed playgrounds, and I needed to exercise, and I wasn't about to just run around in a circle on a track. I wanted to play with the racket. So I hopped a fence to a squash court and got caught by police.
So you're confessing right now?
I've already pleaded guilty and paid my ticket. So
criminal.
I'm home free. But so I got this ticket for trespassing, playing alone in a park, in a gated space, and I was nowhere near anybody, and there was no infection that was happening at that moment. And I got And I was thinking about the ticket, and I'm like, is there no capacity or for nuance to distinguish between something that's dangerous and harmful and something that's not? Like, the how reticent people are to go along with something that makes absolutely no sense for the sake of just being like a bot for our like ruling class, I guess, is just like that blew me away about COVID. That was something, and that has nothing to do with the media or with tech. That has to do with your own judgment.
But it also has to do with how far you have to be pushed in order to fight back against something, right? Most people pretty much just want to live peacefully. They just want to take their kids to school. They want to get dinner on the table. They want to relax on the weekend. And so until the point comes, and we were talking about this before, until the point comes when you can't get dinner on the table.
Yeah.
And unless you're pushed past that breaking point, what you're going to do is you're going to do your job and you're going to get dinner on the table and you're going to try and take care of your kids, and that's what you're going to do.
Well, I don't know what the right word is. I'm skeptical that the same things that led to, say, the Arab Spring or traditional revolutions, we've seen it with food, will have the same role, particularly because millennials don't have kids. It's really, really easy to feed one person. But a lot of these revolutions, it's because food is becoming too expensive. Why? Well, people have children. So when it comes to the point where your kids are being threatened, a person will go to great lengths to protect their children. Millennials don't have any.
Yeah.
I mean, well, they do, obviously, but they're
They've got
disproportionately
dogs.
less.
They've got things like cockapoos and
Little. What are those little Pomeranians?
they've got Pomeranians.
They look
little
like
yappy things.
little yappy things.
It is. I will say though that the stuff shortage in the U.S. I think is getting worse. I only have one child, but my grocery bill keeps increasing by something like $25 or $30 every couple of weeks.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
My normal grocery bill for like your basic trip to the grocery store, a little bacon, a little pasta, and some fruit, whatever, who cares, is be like $50, and now I'm up to like $125 for the same stuff.
We went to a local grocery store, and I was just getting some basics. I can't remember what we were going to make. I think we were doing like a taco night or something, and it was like $300 for not even that much meat, sour cream, avocados, and I was like, this is a mistake. And then I was like, everything was just, it added up, and I was like, what? This is mind-blowing to me. Like, how did it get so expensive? We didn't have a full cart.
I'm buying way less meat than I used to. It's not like I was buying that much of it, but now there's just like one night I'll make my kids some pork chops.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.